Hi everyone, and welcome to the 14th in our series of commentaries on the crisis, in which we're intending to bring insight into the way businesses are changing and the stages of that change and how we can recognize these stages and to react to them from a kind of HR and finance professional point of view. So really looking at what signs we should be looking for and how we should be reacting and learning from others in the HR and finance community to really understand what they're experiencing so that we can better respond ourselves. We'll be focusing today really on the beginnings of the second stage of the crisis, the relaunch of various businesses, etc., the setting up, the planning for both getting things started again, and also the planning for the longer term. And I'm delighted to be joined by Beth, who is the Global Director for the Dorchester Collection Academy. So welcome, Beth. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here this morning.
And Beth's role at in the Dorchester group is really supporting them in what she'll tell us herself in a little while. But my view is that we haven't had yet in our 14 seminars anyone who is leading in the hospitality sector and working in that sector or the luxury sector. So I'm really excited to hear your views, Aaron, on how it's Beth, on how it's impacted you. So Beth, can you tell us a bit about the Dorchester Academy, what it is? Because I think some of our viewers may not know what you do, and yeah, exactly how it all fits together.
Great, thank you very much, Tom. So let me start by explaining a little bit about how the Academy started. So Dorchester Collection Academy is a very new business. We've only been in existence since February of 2018. So we were just entering into our third year, if you will, when this all started. And this, for us, Dorchester Collection Academy was really born and established from our hotel customers' desire to train their own teams. So many of our customers in our fantastic hotels around the globe are themselves presidents, CEOs, very senior business owners, and they were guests in our properties experiencing the wonderful service that our teams provide and would ask whether or not we could train their own teams. And this was something that we started to do in a very low-key but supportive way. And we then realized that this could be in itself an opportunity to commercialize the HR function.
Yes.
So that's really how it started, and now where we are since our inception, a couple of years on, is we are providing really three core services. We support in the development of training programs in the customer experience and developing inspirational leadership within other businesses, and we also provide consultancy services. So really where we are today is we have somewhere in the region of 10 different business sectors that we support, and these can be luxury or aspirational brands, and we work across the globe, but we also have our fabulous academy, which is based in Mayfair in central London, where delegates can come and truly experience what it is to have that wonderful customer service themselves and really be immersed in it. So that's a little bit about the background of the Academy and where we are today. And I'm pleased to say that we have actually been trading and operating throughout, albeit we have been doing so from our homes, but there's much that we've been able to do during this time, which is fantastic.
That's really interesting. So you kind of achieved the trick which a lot of HR directors, a lot of us, want to do, which is actually turn our activities, our service to our core original customers, to our own organization, outward facing when to others. And that's really interesting. What is the USP? Why would somebody want to buy that kind of activity from you? And I guess what can we learn from that? Because I guess all of our HR functions are unique to our particular business, but there must be something which is you felt, and clearly the market feels, is essentially good about your HR and training service. What is it which you which allows you to do this so successfully?
So that's a really good question, and I think ultimately it's because Dorchester Collection as a business is world renowned. We have 9 amazing hotels across the globe. During the pandemic, 2 of those properties, in fact, have been able to stay open to a limited extent, and both of those were in California, our Beverly Hills and our Bel Air hotels.
Yes.
And because people can actually experience what we promise within the academy, then it is something that is incredibly unique, because whilst there are other businesses that operate as consultants, as trainers, facilitators, rarely can you actually see the promise in action. And with us, you actually can see it and experience it yourself. And indeed, many of the customers of the academy have tried us out by going to the Dorchester, for example, for afternoon tea. And they've been so wowed by the whole experience that when they come to us, they normally start by saying, if you can help us achieve what we've experienced, then we know we will have something special. So I think that's that partnership that works incredibly well for us. Again, also because we're willing to share what we know about the luxury market, willingly and openly with our clients who are in numerous different business industries. I think that also shows that partnership and that willing to support other businesses to be successful.
Yeah,
sorry, I was going to say our purpose is helping people to flourish, and that extends to all levels, whether that's individually or whether that's collectively as a business.
Right, so it's actually building upon those recognized strengths which people can actually experience, because I guess, you know, any hotel chain, doesn't matter which level it's at, it is, you know, there's bricks and mortar and there's all that stuff, but frankly, there's another hotel next door and there's a third one further down the road, etc. So for many people, it's that experience of the service which actually differentiates those different hotel experiences and staying experiences.
Agreed. And the relationships that we have with our customers really is born from the amazing service that's provided by our incredible teams. And you know, we often talk about culture, and we have a very strong people culture. And during this pandemic, that culture has really shown itself in its true colors. So our culture we refer to as a we care philosophy, and we respect our individuals and we celebrate individuality, uniqueness, and the personalities of our teams. And it's that we really wanted to protect. So when we started out through lockdown, and of course lockdown was different at different times in different countries, we made a commitment, Dorchester Collection made a commitment to each and every employee, which is to ensure that their positions were safe and secure, and that indeed their salaries would be paid in full. And we've continued that commitment and reiterated that commitment throughout. And in fact, our chief executive, Mr. Christopher Cowdery, actually made that statement personally to all the teams, which was incredibly powerful, but also integral to everything that we do in our strategy has been our commitment to our guests. And our guests want to know that these self-same people who have been looking after them will continue to do so on their return. And knowing that we have supported our employees throughout has actually meant that our guests are really excited about coming back. And we're already seeing lots of really positive messages from our guests. And I think that has been central to our focus throughout this pandemic, is supporting our employees and putting our guests at the heart of absolutely everything that we do in all of our decision making. And we'll continue to do so. So it's those key messages that we really focus on within the Academy when we're talking to our clients. And throughout the entire pandemic, we have continued to communicate frequently with our clients, or as frequently as they would like us to. And those relationships that we have with our clients is so important. So we have been just having general phone calls and chats, finding out how they are, and really just talking to them and keeping that connection alive. And that's what's been really important. And we know as and when they're ready, we'll be waiting for them, and we'll be ready to kickstart or indeed to reignite whatever we need to do to support them.
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, that I'm imagining, and I don't know, but that's a lot of employees who are being supported in a time when the actual kind of the occupancy rate must be very low indeed across the group, with the two being open. So that's and that also contrasts, I think, to what we've seen in the broader hospitality sector, where a lot of organisations have been forced to furlough people and put people on short hours, and not provide that commitment. And that's very interesting. But effectively, you're saying that your brand is dependent upon your people entirely, and therefore actually holding those teams together to provide the same quality and face to the service afterwards is the critical component.
I couldn't have put it better myself. Yes, and our brand is something that we hold very dear to our hearts. We know our guests and our clients do, and therefore it's really important that we stay true to that. And it's really our guiding light on how we make all of our decisions. And whilst it's been a really difficult time for everybody, obviously hospitality, as we know, has been desperately affected at this time, and us the same as every other hospitality business, we decided it was really important that we stayed on brand in all of our discussions, decision-making processes and commitments. And therefore our strategy is unwavering in that. I think what we have seen is some incredible creativity in the industry, which has been fantastic. And again, we would say that and celebrate that. I think people have had to diversify, which has probably been the right thing to do for many of those businesses. For us, we have, again, when we have done any diversification, we've had to make sure that it is on brand and on point, and that we continue to be truly committed to our strategy and our focus around our people and our guests. And I think particularly, if I can give an example, I know that there's been quite a lot of talk around how such things as room service might be done. And some businesses are saying that there will be no room service. Other businesses are saying that they will do room service. Ultimately, for us, because our guest is at the heart of everything we do, and each guest is individual, and how each guest has responded during this pandemic, and each person, I'm sure, in our own networks has responded during this pandemic, we need to make sure that we are always considering that self-same approach when we get back to business. And whilst we put all the necessary protocols in place as defined by each of those governments and each of those local environments, ultimately it's what the guest wants that will determine how we respond. And if a guest wants room service and they want it done in a particular way, with the trolley left outside, for example, versus a trolley being taken into a room, then we'll listen to what they have to say, and we will do our best to make sure, as long as it complies with the regulations, that we're able to ensure that they feel that they're getting the service experience that they want.
This is very interesting because in the retail environments which have started to reopen, in most which I've seen, etc., the signage, the safety precautions, that stuff is really quite in your face. It's quite clear to when you walk in that you are expected to walk this way and not that way, and there's signs on the floor, there's material everywhere. The collection of the masks and all this stuff is really directly in front of you. Are you guys, what's your approach to this? How's that going to work? So in walking through the doors on the first day of the Dorchester restarting, would I expect to be greeted with a panoply of such stuff, or how's it going to work?
So our signage throughout our hotels has always been very employee-led, and our signage is generally very subtle. And if it can't be in keeping with the overall environment itself, then we prefer our signage to be the human touch. And therefore, that's really been our focus. So we've been really fortunate with our Beverly Hills Hotel and our Hotel Bel Airs, both of which have been open during this time, to learn lessons about how we will implement that through our other properties. But we have a fantastic program that we've introduced to make sure that our compliances are there, but we have really focused on ensuring that our teams have got the knowledge and the understanding of how to implement all of the protocols, but in a sensitive and brand concordant fashion. And therefore, you won't see signage all over the floors in our properties. We will be providing that through our interactions with our people. Where it's mandated to wear a mask, we will of course have masks. That's very much specific to the local environment that we're operating in. And again, any other PPE that's required. But again, we want to make sure that it doesn't look of a surgical nature. So it's really important that it looks, again, on brand, and it fits in with the overall look of either the uniform or the general styling that we would have within our properties. I think what's key is that when our guests come in, they know that we have taken all of the necessary precautions, but they can visibly see us making, supporting them, as opposed to us doing so through signage. And we think that that's what's vital. So it's whilst it's a light touch, in many instances, of course, we can't be touching things in the way that our guests would have done previously. It's really high on service, and that's where we have directed things. And we know that our guests want to come back to us because they want to interact with people. So again, we've really made sure that they have got the opportunity to do so. And in fact, what we've seen through the return of guests as we've expanded our service offering in our hotels in LA, is we've seen that the guests want to speak much more with our employees. And in fact, we've seen interactions lasting as long as 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that really demonstrates that it's that they want. It's not an impersonal service. And so we have to do our utmost to make sure that our teams are enabled and prepared and empowered to be able to take the necessary actions to support the guests. And as I said, the guests really trust that we will have everything in place. And so they just need to see us visibly doing it. So that's how we've interpreted things.
So that is actually an enormous amount of retraining. This is a whole new set of knowledge, of procedures, of prepared answers and understanding, which the whole teams must need to have in place from the first day. because in relying upon the hosts and the various people at every single area to be replacing what are physical signage, etc., and really understanding and being ready to reassure the customers, etc. That must have taken quite a lot of retraining, Beth, to really get that in place. So how have you been doing that?
So I'm pleased to say that Dorchester Collection and Dorchester Collection Academy, our people teams together, so our people and culture teams together, we've helped to create a fantastic set of training materials with all the necessary protocols, and we've done that in conjunction with our senior management teams in each of our hotels and the general managers. So the program is incredibly robust, and it's then localized by the learning and development teams within each property. And it's those learning and development teams who have been rolling out the training as it's required and as people are coming back into the business to fulfill their roles. And, you know, I think what's been incredible throughout is that our leadership team within Dorchester Collection has been incredibly close to our properties. They always have been and always will be, but I think during this time in particular they have been, and as properties have been reopening, I'm pleased that we will be opening 2 of our UK properties this weekend, which is fantastic news.
Oh, that's exciting.
Very exciting indeed, and so they're all getting set, and we're doing things very gradually and very sensitively, but our leadership teams have been over to the properties to provide support, encouragement, and really, you know, get them excited about going back back to the jobs that they love. And looking after the guests, which we know that they love to do, and they're very excited about that. And it's great to see the enthusiasm for the teams as we get ready to do that.
And what do you what is the plan? Is it we'll open the doors back to normal, full occupancy from this weekend, or is it a more, you know, how are you managing the reopening? Because presumably it isn't a question of simply starting. It is a question of, you know, of stepping things in some way.
I think with all things, there is an element of caution at this time. Of course, we're ultimately guided by our guests. So we opened our booking channels when we knew it was right to do so. And it's those booking channels that are guiding our occupancy, but very gradual, very slow, very small steps, but being ready for them and being ready for the uptake as and when it happens. I think we'll probably be very positively encouraged by what we see. And if early indications are anything to go by in our hotels in LA, where we thought, for example, when we reopened the Polo Lounge at our Beverly Hills Hotel, we thought we would, and our forecast was that we'd probably get about 100 covers. We actually saw in a very short period of time that number increased to 600 covers.
Wow.
So there's definitely a demand, and I think a pent-up demand for people to want to come back. But again, we have to ensure that we do so in a safe way, and we have to make sure that we manage all the protocols that are required by all of the local environments within which we operate. I think we're really fortunate within many of our properties and that we're very near green spaces, which is incredibly helpful. Or indeed we're surrounded by green spaces. So our Coworth Park property, which is in Ascot, is nestled in 240 acres of meadow and fields and parklands, and therefore from a social distancing perspective is really easy to be able to support. Yeah. And I think ultimately our guests will dictate where they want to be within those grounds as well. and how they want to be living their life while they're with us. So we'll work with them and personalize their experience so that, you know, their return is one to remember. And that's, I think, what's so important during this time, is making sure that their first experience of a guest coming back into the lifestyle that they're used to experiencing is a really positive one, and a seamless one, and an effortless one for them, and that we've done all the thinking for them. And again, that's part of what we train within Dorchester Collection Academy. Going back to your point on training, is absolutely vital that training takes place, but it's really meaningful, and people are understanding the impact of their behaviors on the guests, or indeed in our instance when we provide training, how our clients are able to interpret that for their customers.
I see. So almost, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's kind of, the idea seems to me to be somewhat creating an oasis of what it was like in the past. So although everything's different in the world, the experience you're trying to generate is one where it's recognizable. It's an oasis within that, where I can get the kind of same experience as I'm used to from the brand. And that kind of sounds like the kind of approach you're taking, which is you almost leave your concerns, etc., at the door, kind of thing, because you guys have taken care of things.
I think that's right, and what we've seen is, particularly with the legislation that's being publicised in all parts of the world about how to become COVID secure, if you will, as you open your business, is a lot of businesses are putting COVID and COVID security at the centre of their organisation and their business model, rather than putting the customer at the centre and using the regulations in a sensitive and supportive way that's sympathetic to their brand. And therefore we've taken a slightly different approach from other businesses, because we have never wavered from our customers being at the heart of what we do.
That's really interesting. I mean, I guess one of the key risks of the relaunch is exactly as you say, that for many of us, many of our companies, etc., that we put the COVID precautions, the new exciting things which we've got to do, for front and center, and forget about that customer experience piece. And actually, that's the bit which matters most to most businesses, which is actually getting that customer focus front and central again, and rapidly. I think that is very interesting. That's a real lesson for me to think through how that should be applied, because there's so much talk about. Well, I'm seeing generally across all industries this drive to try and get back to our old lives. And I think that, although obviously that needs to be done with great delicacy and stuff like that, and really carefully, nonetheless, it's the experience of the brands we use and love needs to be recognizable from what it was before, and I think that's really exciting and a hard trick to pull off.
It is, but I think if one really thinks very carefully about one's brand, it is possible to do. We've got some very simple but powerful principles that we apply in both our properties, but also we share with our clients so that they can implement with their customers. And that is never give a job to a customer to do.
Mm-hmm.
So where technology can be a really powerful enabler, for example, we, together with, I know, many businesses at this moment in time, particularly in hospitality, have looked carefully at such things as QR codes. And I know that a lot of people have suggested that that's the way to go. We have identified that that's not what is right for our brand, because it's giving an extra job for a customer to do, and we want to make their lives easy. That's why they come to us, and that's why they want to experience life within a Dorchester Collection hotel, or indeed come to the Academy, so they understand how we interpret that. And therefore we've said, how can we do this differently? And again, it's through the creativity and innovation of our teams on property that we've said, well, we know menus are simplified at this time, as has been the case throughout many hospitality businesses. So why instead don't we provide a single-use menu? We envisage this is for a short period of time, and therefore we can produce a nice quality single-use menu. Our customers will understand why we're doing this, and we believe that's the right way to go, because they still want the interaction with the server at their table. They want to have their food presented in a way that allows them to interact and talk about their food experience. And as I've mentioned, it's that engagement with people again that we know our guests are hungry for. So we want to provide them with the opportunity to do so in a sensitive way, and in a way that very much means that they're still getting much of the experience that they had previously.
Yes, yeah, and a smaller, paper menu can be a very nice thing. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, those. I'm sure you've got rid of them years ago, but those enormous leather-bound tomes, which you sometimes see in restaurants. Actually, I can see this. I'd rather have something which I can clearly see is brand new and special to me. It's very interesting, though. I think that this business, because every brand has this. Every retail brand, doesn't matter what level it is, but actually their customers value certain things about the experience. And the COVID crisis is challenging that, and can, if we get this wrong, can change that experience and actually break that experience by focusing so much on the COVID piece. So that's really exciting. Now, I'm going to, in a moment, ask Becky to take us through the questions we've got and run through some questions. But finally, before we move on to that, I'd like to ask you, what are your views for the new realities? What differences, Beth, are you seeing and expecting to occur as we come out of this crisis? What are there any lasting things from the crisis which we're going to see in your market area?
I think flexibility and adaptability, and the speed at which, and the agility, the speed at which a business has to work at this moment in time, we're seeing, and certainly that applies to us within the Academy as well as within our hotels. And I think so long as we're listening to our customers, listening to what they want, listening to our employees so that we can support them throughout, then we will continue to honour what's great about Dorchester Collection and the reasons why people are coming to Dorchester Collection. But I think that message really transcends not just Dorchester Collection, but many other businesses. And to not be disheartened, because I think if businesses continue to show their support of their teams, the flexibility within their own brand while staying on brand, I think they will come out of this successful, and they will come out of this in a positive way, so long as they continue to remember it really is the customer that should be central to their thoughts and their decision making, and not losing sight of that. Customers will come back. They want to come back. We've seen that. and we just need to be ready for them in the way they would want us to be ready for them, so that their loyalty will be repaid in bucket loads, and I'm sure that will, we will see light at the end of the tunnel, and that we will come out of it, all of us, and I'm wishing everyone lots and lots of success as they begin to open their businesses at what will be a challenging time, and continue to remain positive.
Love that. So a couple of really positive messages. Confidence that our customers are coming back. I love the pent-up demand comment earlier, and I'm sure that's true of most businesses. Most people are coming back. But then I also like the angle that people are gaining in confidence, because, the things we've done differently over the last 13 weeks should generate enormous confidence amongst all our businesses that if we can weather this as quickly as we can, then anything else which is thrown at us is a relatively easy problem. So Beth, thank you. So Becky, can we run on to questions, please, from the audience?
Yes. And I want to ask a question which is my own first, so I'm actually going to claim this question as my own, and it might be controversial, but anyone who knows me knows that I worry about the environment quite a lot. And one of the things I think about when I think about airlines and hospitality and all of this COVID stuff is around more single-use plastic, more single-use paper, and it does worry me. And we're seeing gloves on the street and people throwing masks on the street and stuff. And I wondered, Beth, if there was any plan or any kind of consideration as to how we balance, the single-use need to meet guidelines and to reassure customers around cleanliness and everything, but also balancing that with sustainability.
I think that's a really good question, and certainly one I'm sure many businesses have considered during this time. I think what's been really interesting has been the focus on the whole CSR piece that many businesses are showing. And I think certainly that has been absolutely fantastic. The support that people are showing in their communities, in their of the NHS and other local establishments. But going back to the sustainability piece, I do believe that whilst some of these measures are short-term, and therefore, sadly, there is an increase in some single-use products, I do believe that over a period of time, if some of these measures need to continue, then people will find a way, and there will be a way to have products that can be reused. For example, face masks don't need to be single use. There are many types of face coverings out there that can be washable. And therefore that, from a sustainability perspective, is certainly something that we as a business have looked at and will continue to do so. So certainly we hope it will be short-lived. The environment is something that's important to all of us and will continue to be important to all of us. And I'm sure that over a period of time, we'll see many new and creative ways of looking at some of these single-use PPE products, for example, as being slightly more sustainable over time.
Thanks, Beth. Another question that we had was around projects. So lots of businesses have had to put on pause or rethink some of the big projects that they were doing, whether it's from a HR perspective or something else. Were there any projects that the Dorchester Collection Academy had coming up that you've had to either pause or cancel? Anything going ahead still?
So I mean, again, another really good question. I think every business has had to look at what's right for them, whether it's a capital project, whether it's an IT project, and they've needed to identify what's really business critical now, because we've all seen that our business has changed shape during this time. So therefore, what do we really need to concentrate on? What's really going to move the needle? what's really going to help us as we move out of this situation, and therefore what should we really focus our time and attention on. So the answer is yes, we have got projects that I'm pleased to say we have been able to continue, because we see those as being really integral to our either our guests and our guest experience, or indeed our people. So where we have had to, it's important that we continue to, that's exactly what we've done.
Brilliant, that's good. That's very good news. And then a really kind of fundamental question, really. You know, we were talking about training, and it's, you know, I understand that it's kind of leadership training and coaching and dealing with dissatisfied customers, that kind of thing. Is there any training that normally is physical? And I'm not saying it's necessarily, you know, making the beds and laying the tables and things, but, you know, is there training that is going to be quite difficult to deliver virtually? You know, is that having to be rethought at all?
So if you're referring to more operational training, so Dorchester Collection versus Dorchester Collection Academy, I'll talk about the Academy specifically and how we have adapted our training. And again, this is very much staying true to our brand. We felt that doing our training virtually was not where we wanted to be unless we could create a fantastic luxury learning experience. And our Academy is renowned for already, in a short period of time, for doing that. Because we have to translate what we do in our properties, and we have to create that experience in our academy through my fantastic team that I have working with me. And we felt that if we could not do that really well online and virtually, we wouldn't do it. So what we've spent our time doing during this last 3 months is searching for the right tool to help us deliver so that we stay on brand. We've now found a tool that we're really happy with, and we've been practicing with it, and we've actually got some practice sessions that we're doing over the course of this week and next week, and we've used our own internal teams to practice prior to actually expanding out to a particular client who's requested us to deliver in this way. But it is not the normal way that we would wish to deliver. And for us, what we want to do is ensure that we create behavioral change in our learning, those aha moments. And if we can't do it virtually, then we would prefer that we wait until we can do it properly, because it's really important, again, that we make sure that when people are engaging us, that and they know that we're not the cheapest in the market, that we absolutely deliver on point against their expectations. And so that's always our focus, and that's what we will continue to do.
Brilliant, thank you. And then I just want to finish with a comment, actually, and this is from Hayley. Hayley is the head of HR at Office Shoes, and spoke on one of our earlier Anatomy of a Crisis webinars. And she said that your explanation of your approach to the safety guidance and the new procedures, really focusing on customer experience, and making sure that customer experience and the guest experience is the front and center, is a very beautiful way to look at the approach, and very refreshing to hear.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Hayley. Thank you.
It is very interesting. I do think that we've kind of got to this point of actually ignoring some of those fundamentals of the business, and key to this is that customer experience. And I think that the fact that in your business, Beth, it is the clearly everything about the brand is the customer experience, but and it should be for all of us at all our different levels, and not losing sight of that is really exciting. So Beth, I'd like to thank you for joining us and for your really interesting insights on the market at the moment. Thank you very much for that. And I'd like to thank all our attendees for attending as well. Thank you for taking time out of your day and joining us. We're going to be continuing these webinars for the next few weeks. The crisis is taking longer than any of us expected. This is the 14th. I'm not sure what number we're going to get up to, but I look forward to you joining us again at future events. And thank you very much again, Beth, and thank you everybody. So have a great day, and thanks for joining.